Hey yogis, welcome back. My name is Sesa. We're going to flow through another hour of yin and yang, but before that I wanted to discuss a little bit more in depth as to what yin and yang is. We've all seen the yin and yang symbol, right? It's that circle that half of it is white, half of it is black. Within the black side there's a white dot, and within the white side there's a black dot. And in Taoism, that picture represents the perfect balance or harmony between the two dualities that are constantly at play, and this acceptance and understanding that both are always present, and that in fact all things are both yin and yang. It's just a matter of what is predominantly at the forefront, or what the focus, or which is imbalanced. So yin represents feminine, the moon, darkness, things that are deeper or more hidden beneath the surface, things that are considered more mysterious, colder, tighter, right? And then the yang represents the masculine, things like the sun, or things that are higher, further away from the surface, or things that are more obvious, the more superficial or closer to the surface, right? And so we just have to understand that everything has both yin and yang within it. And it's just a matter of which is off balance and what we need to really focus on. Tamal, what are you doing here? All right, well, totally lost my train of thought, but I'm going to call Casey into the room and we'll get started. Tamal, can you take your cereal, please? What is happening? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll just start off in child's pose. Big toes touch, knees touch as well, or they can open up a comfortable distance apart. Arms can extend forward or down the sides of your body. It's really a matter of kind of how you're feeling, what you're needing. So really taking these first few moments to kind of allow the body to reacclimate, readjust, and get situated in where you are right here, right now. So with your eyes closed, just scan from the tips of your toes, along the shins, through the knees, up to the hips, the length of your torso, down the arms, all the little muscles in your face. Just remembering that the body, although it is separate and individual muscles, ligaments, and tendons, it works as one whole. And if one or a few things are out, generally that affects the rest of the body. And so just trying to find a focal point for you to work on today. And that with that catching your attention, we'll check in with the breath. So just watching every inhale and every exhale. And then together we'll let go of a nice long exhale. And then take a deep inhale through your nose. Send that breath all the way to the hook of your tailbone. Try to lengthen your spine all the way to the top. Then open up the mouth. Deep inhale, filling from the bottom to the top. This time holding, unless you're pregnant, you always want to keep breathing. And then open up the mouth and audibly let it go. Another deep inhale through the nose, capping it off at the peak. This time, keeping the lips sealed, you'll gently just exhale out the nose. And then just continue to breathe in and out your nose as slowly and as deeply as you can. Trying to keep this connection with your breath for the duration of the next 60 minutes. And then if you're with me, we'll inhale. Let's come up to all fours or tabletop. Knees open or closed just so they stack directly into the hips, wrists directly into the shoulders. Inhale, cow. Drop your belly to the mat, lift your tailbone and glance up to the sky. Shoulders pull away from the ears. Exhale, round the shoulders, tuck your tailbone, let your head hang heavy between the arms. Inhale, gentle sway in the back, just like a cow. And then exhale, round and curl like a scared cat. So just going on your own, breath per movement, finding that rhythm by following your breath. Palms press into the mat, triceps hug back. Your shins and tops of the feet push down. If your toes are tucked, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you drive the heels back. And allow this movement really to come from the tilting of your pelvis, right? It's the tailbone tucking down that rounds the lower back, that then domes the thoracic spine and lets the head hang. It's the tailbone lifting that causes the lower back to drop, the chest to lift, the glans comes out. And then as you're ready, on your next inhale, we'll find a neutral spine or tabletop. Tuck your toes. Drive your heels back just enough that your knees lift a little bit up off the mat. Maybe you could slide your finger between your knee and the mat. Feel how your legs kind of kick on. Tuck your tailbone just a little bit so you can pull the belly in. Give your spine some support. Press into the palms so the chest lifts away from the mat. So you're going to try and keep your knees hovering. Inhale, lift the tailbone, belly dips, glance up for cow. And then exhale, tuck the tailbone, round the shoulders, head falls heavy. So inhale, cow with those knees hovering, and exhale, cat. So again, on your own, breath per movement. Just notice how maybe the depth of the back bend or fold isn't as much because you're actually requiring more of your body to participate. If you have to put the knees down, I'm just going to have to ask you to never do my class again. I'm kidding. You can put the knees down at any point. But we're going to meet in the next cow pose, tailbone lifting. So notice the length you've created within the back. Keep that. Lift the hip creases up and back as you relax the head and neck, downward facing dog. Relaxing the head and neck, maybe pedaling out the feet. Coming up and down on the toes. You shouldn't have moved the hands. They should remain shoulders distance apart. If anything, if you're feeling any discomfort within your shoulders or your wrists, make sure the index and middle finger point straight forward, or if anything, turn slightly out. And then as you relax the head and neck, look back at the feet. Make sure they rest hips distance apart. Heels spin back and just slightly out so they disappear behind your toes. And then even if you have to bend the knees a lot, I want you to think of lifting the hip creases straight up to the sky, pushing the pubic bone back to the wall you're looking at. Think a little cow pose within your lumbar spine. But then knit the front ribs and even the sternum bone in so you think a little bit of a cat pose in your upper back. Nothing extreme. You're trying to accentuate the natural curves and convexes of your spine. As you now just play with pushing the tops of your thighs straight back to help anchor your heels down. And then keeping the head and neck relaxed, we'll just consciously think about the hands. Can you lift just your fingertips up off the mat? Grounding down the whole circumference of your palm. And then as your fingers spread wide, fan them into the mat with each knuckle ending with your fingertips. Now keep your hands as they are, but you're going to hug your shoulder blades to the outer rib cage. That's called protraction. Wrapping the triceps back, and now think of lifting your forearms forward. And then with an inhale, let's come forward, high plank or top of a push-up, lowering your hips in line with the shoulders. Drive your heels back, firm your thigh bones up to the ceiling, but at the same time, let's keep those hips level with the shoulder blades, even if you have to drop to the knees for modification. Everybody, tuck the tailbone towards your heels so you can pull the belly in. Wrists, elbows, shoulders stacked. You want to push down into your hands so much that the chest lifts. You actually create a horseshoe shape in the front of your body. The shoulders glide down the back as the crown of the head lengthens forward. And if you start shaking or trembling, that just means you're doing it right. Breathe. Take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward, high plank. And exhale, downward dog, lift your hips. Now from downward dog, let's inhale the right leg to the sky, leading with the heel, Inner right thigh spins to the ceiling so that right hip stays square to the mat. So you want to keep your hips square to the earth, but bend your right knee. Think of pulling your heel towards your butt. Hamstring curling in that right leg. Imagine I put a toilet paper roll in between the calf and the hamstring. Now lift the tip of your knee a little higher. Maybe even point your toes like a ballerina. And if that feels okay within the lower back, you're going to push into your hands so much that you can actually lift your head up, trying to touch the back of your head to your toes. If that compresses the lower back, pull your lower belly in. Breathe. Take an inhale. As you exhale, you're going to curl that right knee to your nose, bring your shoulders over your wrists, belly pulls tight. Now inhale, kick the leg back, heel to butt, point the toes, maybe lift your head. And then exhale, pull the knee into your nose, pull the belly tight. Inhale, leg lifts, toes point to the head, maybe the head lifts. And then exhale, knee to nose, shoulders over wrists. So just keep going like this on your own. So we're kind of getting that same cat-cow motion within our spine, but we're adding intensity and different layers on top of that. Engaging more of the core, demanding more of the biospinal muscles, the arms, right? And even in that right leg. Then let's meet with that leg lifting. Kick the heel back, straightening out the leg. Exhale, knee to nose, but this time look forward, and then step next to your right thumb. Pulling your front leg straight, relax the head and neck. So straight is a very relative term. The front knee could be a little bent, it might be a lot of bent, but I want you to just push into the middle of your right foot, hug that outer right hip back, feel the back of your right leg lifting towards your sit bone. Let the head hang heavy. Crown of the head working its way towards your right big toe. Belly pulls in towards the spine. And then as you're ready, go ahead and slowly rebend your front knee. Think cobra up dog in your shoulders. Pull the lower belly in up off your thigh. Think high plank in that back leg. And if you're light on your fingertips, try to just reach your arms straight forward without lifting your chest those 3 or 4 inches that it just lifted. Pull the belly in, knit your front ribs in, energize your back leg. If this is too much in the lower back, you can always reach your arms back, palms face to the earth. But if they're reaching forward with me, wrap those triceps down, see if the palms begin to shine up. And then whether the arms are reaching back or forward, lift your arms a little higher, add some traction, take an inhale. Exhale, hands to the mat, lift your back leg to the sky, vertical splits. Flex the back heel, relax your head and neck. So level out your left hip with the right, but make sure you're not just collapsing into your right hip. So you will need to push the weight into the right foot, hug your right hip back and push the top of your right thigh back. Keep a little buoyancy in the right knee so you're not bending it, but you're not necessarily locking out the knee. Arms can be wide, keep the neck and head soft, the shoulders away from your ears. Breathe. Now I want you to cup the earth with the fingertips about 12 inches in front of your right foot. Think flat back, halfway up. Now you're going to bend your left knee, pull the heel towards your bottom. Now listen carefully. I want you to begin to try and drop your left foot towards your inner right thigh as you now lift the left knee out to the side of the room and then up towards the ceiling. Almost like a half moon, but not quite. You're trying to get that left foot to hang heavy down towards your inner right thigh, down towards the groin. Oh, lift the tip of the knee up. Oh, feel it in the outer glute. Breathe in out your nose. And then slowly kick the legs straight back, relax the head and neck, flex through the heel. Inhale, lift that leg a little higher. And then exhale, set the foot down next to right, forward fold. Feet hips distance apart, inhale, flat back, and exhale, release. Bend your left knee gently. Take your left hand and grab onto the outer right ankle or calf. Reach your right arm up to the sky. We'll take our first twist. So the left knee is bent to help prevent any strain in the lower back. Hug the left hip back. You can work your left leg towards straight if you're on the more bendy side, but notice if your torso is dipping towards your left knee, I want you to think flat back, lengthen the spine. Expand the arms apart. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Breathe in and out your nose. Take a deep inhale. As you exhale, right hand to the mat, let it go. Inhale, flat back, halfway up. As you exhale, plant the hands. Let's just step back for now, high plank. Now from high plank, I want you to lean your shoulders forward. If you need those knees, use them. Exhale, chaturanga, halfway down. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Gently, slowly find a back bend. And then exhale, roll over your toes, lift the hips, downward dog. Now from downward dog, we're gonna lead with the inner left thigh, lifting the left heel to the sky, flexing the foot for now, squaring off the hips. Remember, the left hip, we have this tendency to want to roll it open, but try not to do that. Bend the left knee, pull the heel as close to your butt as you can. Pull the lower belly in and almost imagine tucking your tailbone towards your right heel. Now, if you can push into your hands enough that you can lift your head, point through those left toes as if you're trying to get your toes to touch the back of your skull. Breathe, take an inhale. Use your exhale, curl the knee to your nose as you bring your shoulders over your wrists, belly tight. Now inhale, stretch the leg back, bend the knee, point through the toes. That might be as far as you go. You might lift your head. And then exhale, knee to nose, shoulders over wrist, belly pulls in. On your own, breath per movement, remember, finding that cat-cow movement within the spine, even if you don't lift your head as much as you would like to, or as much as you think you need to, right? You never want to feel any sharp stabbing pains within the spine. Work towards your edge, but never beyond it. And then with your next inhale, we'll just kick that leg straight back. Flex to the heel, let that hamstring release. Exhale, pull the knee to your nose, but this time push into your hands so you can lift your head and step next to your left thumb. Pull your front leg straight. Outer left hip hugs back. So you want to get both hips to be evenly pushing up and back like they would in downward dog. The head falls forward and down. And all the weight just pushes into the middle of that front foot. The back heel doesn't have to touch the ground. Your front leg doesn't even have to be fully straight. Try to get away from that idea that a stretch in the back of your leg comes from a straight leg. If we're tighter in our hamstrings, that knee might stay pretty bent. But as long as you feel a release, a stretch up the back of your left leg, you're doing enough. And then as you're ready, re-bend the front knee. Cup the earth with the fingertips of your hands, get light. Cobra up dog through the shoulders, engage your core, pull the belly tight, drive into the right heel, lift through the right thigh. And then if you're ready, try to reach both arms forward as if you're holding a block out over your head. If that's too much, remember, take your arms down and back. But pull the belly in, hug your left hip in, keep the back leg extremely active. The arms are reaching back, palms face down. The arms are reaching forward. Eventually, your triceps wrap down enough, your palms shine up. Wherever you're at, lift your arms a little higher. Take an inhale. Exhale, hands down, back leg up. Vertical splits. Relax the head and neck. Arms can stay wide. Flex the back foot. Remember, your right hip is level, but you don't want to just collapse into the left hip. And that, you know that's happening if your right hip is actually swiveling towards your inner left thigh, or you feel kind of pinching within the front of your left hip crease. You need to press the energy into your left foot, hug your outer right hip back, and push your right thigh towards the wall that you're looking at, which should be behind you, not in front of you, if your head is relaxed. And then if you're still with me, let's bring the hands 12 inches in front of your left foot. Cup the earth with the fingertips under the shoulders. Think flat back just to give your spine the space. Now you're going to bend your right knee, heel pulls to the butt. But you're going to try and get that right knee to lift out to the side and then up towards the ceiling. Think big dog, little fire hydrant. And let the right foot, try and get it to fall towards your inner left thigh, almost as if you're doing like a tree pose without actually touching that foot to your inner leg. The knee still lifts up towards the ceiling. Breathe in and out your nose. This sucks, I know. Last few breaths. And then slowly kick the legs straight back, flex the heel, relax the head and neck. Inhale, lift your right heel a little more. And then exhale, set your right foot down next to left, but feet hips distance apart. Inhale, glance out. And then exhale, fold in. Little bend into that right knee. Right hand will grab the outer left ankle or calf. Lift the left arm up to the sky as you think flat back within your spine. Right hip hugs back. Front ribs knit in. Arms expand apart, not just by opening your collarbones, but even try to protract your shoulders. Get your shoulder blades to spread apart as they draw away from the ears. You can look up towards the ceiling. You could look straight out to the side or even down to the mat. Just don't look behind you or up in front of you. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, left hand down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, pull the twist out of your spine. And exhale, just release. Bend your knees. Gently roll your spine up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Belly tight. Think cat pose all the way up until your neck and head are last to come. You'll roll your shoulders up to the ears and then slide them down your back. Let them rest there. So feet can stay as they are, especially if you have lower back pain or hip problems. It's a great way to practice. Not big toes touch, your heels separate enough that you can maybe put your index finger in between them. And then wherever you go with your feet, everybody inhale, circle your arms to the sky. Tadasana, maybe watch your palms kiss. Exhale, forward fold, lead with your heart hinge at the hips. Inhale, flat back. As you exhale, plant the hands, step, maybe jump back, chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And exhale, downward dog. Now from downward dog, I'm going to try to teach you how to go about this traditionally, breath per movement. So first I want you to push into your hands so much that you can lift your head and look between your wrists. Knit the front ribs in. Think of lifting them actually up towards your hips. So notice how your back is kind of in that flat back state. It's with an exhale that you bend your knees, pull your hips back, belly pulls in. Now on a whole inhale, walk or jump to the front of the mat and land in that flat back. And then exhale, fold in. Now with the same flat back, inhale, Tadasana, circle your arms to the sky. And exhale, pull the hands through heart center. Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, arms circle for the sun. Exhale, bow forward towards the earth. Now again, bend the knees if you have to. I want your palms flat in the floor. Think flat back. Push into your palms to lift the crown of your head forward. Your spine should stay as it is. Take an inhale. Belly in. Exhale, bend your arms and jump back to chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And exhale, downward dog. So we'll try and do it a little bit more seamlessly, quite literally breath per movement. So push into your palms, lift your head, exhale, bend your knees, inhale, flat back at the front of your mat. Exhale, fold. Inhale, Tadasana, push down to rise up, look up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, Tadasana, circle the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Get your hands flat in the floor to inhale, flat back. And then exhale, chaturanga, try to hop back into it. Inhale, urdhva mukha, and exhale, adho mukha. Take an inhale. As you exhale, pull the hips back, look forward. Inhale, flat back at the front of the mat. Exhale, release. Inhale, rise, find the peak of the mountain. Exhale, pull the hands to heart center. We have one more. Inhale, Tadasana, reach up. Exhale, fold, let it go. Press into the palms, inhale, flat back. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And exhale, downward dog. So just something to play with in your practice. But if you need those extra breaths like we usually take, there's nothing wrong with taking that route. Just something a little different. From downward dog, check in with your breath. With an inhale, let's bend the knees, look forward. Bottom of your exhale will bring you to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, Utkatasana. Bend your knees, drop your hips, reach up. Feel the weight push into the middle of the feet. Draw the knees back so you can at least see your toes. And as you work your knees together, you're actually more resisting them apart so your knees never touch. They should stack at the center of your ankles. Tailbone draws down, belly pulls in. Arms extend out of your waist as the tops of your shoulders soften down the back. Now keep your body exactly as it is. Just pull your hands to heart center. You're going to shift the weight into your left foot. Bring your right ankle to the top of your left knee. Flex your foot, push your knee down and out. But more important than how far down it gets to the mat is your left hip. You want to hug it back so it doesn't pop out to the side of the room. It lines up with your ankle via the center of your knee. Belly pulls tight. You breathe. Now keep that in the legs, but slowly just fold. Rest your elbows on top of that right knee and ankle. So like a half fold, getting deeper into the hip. So if you know you're on the tighter side, you might grab your blocks, but you're going to release your hands to the mat, keep the figure four, and slowly straighten your left leg out, relax the head and neck. So it's like a one-legged forward fold. Push your right knee back and away from your chest as your lower belly pulls in away from the thigh. Now climb onto the fingertips of your hand. Think flat back, halfway up. You're going to slowly uncross that right leg. Take it straight out to the right side of the room. Flex the foot. Try and get that right inner thigh to be parallel to the mat. If you have to bend your knee, do so. Now slowly kick your right leg straight back behind you. Keep that right hip rolling up towards the ceiling. Inner right thigh spins down towards the mat. And then once you can't lift that right hip anymore, let's lift the right leg to the sky, or right arm to the sky, half moon. So just entering a little bit differently today. Hug that outer left hip back, push the left thigh back. That right leg is anchored, so flex the back foot. Spin the inner right thigh down towards the left leg, but then lift the inner thigh up to the inner ankle. Lengthen the left ribs forward, away from it. Breathe. Now bend your standing leg as deeply as you can. Without sounding like an elephant just walked in the room, very gently step your right foot back, warrior two. Readjust your stance as you need it, heel to heel or heel to arch, shorten or widen it. But you want your front leg as close to a 90-degree angle as you can get it. What that means, I don't care if it's a 90-degree angle, but for the next 90 seconds, you shouldn't have to straighten the leg. And the knee should stack at the ankle. Push the knee out to the left. Make sure your back toes do turn forward at least 10 degrees. Tuck your tailbone down, pull the lower belly in. Knit the front ribs in. When you feel your back ribs jump up off your kidneys, then you can pull the right side ribs back in line with the left. Try and get both shoulders as if they're laying flat against the wall behind you. Energize through the fingertips, from the right out the left. Focus over your front hand. Reaching your left arm as far forward as it'll go. Lengthen from your left hip crease to those fingertips. And then exhale, left hand cups the earth on the outer edge of your left foot, or you can put your hand flat on a block, take your top arm up and overhead. So very few people can actually get that left hand flat on the floor without just slumping on top of the left leg. Ground down through the knife edge of your back foot. Push your left knee into your bicep and push so much into that left foot that you can actually feel that left hip lift away from the top of your thigh. Lower belly pulls in, left side ribs lengthen away from your hip. Beautiful. Knitting the front ribs in. Try to twist the left side ribs out and up. Breathe in and out your nose. Take an inhale. Exhale, right hand to the mat. Step your left foot back, high plank, and we'll pause in high plank. So from high plank, I want you to just drop your right knee to the mat. Stack it under your hip. Turn your left foot down like you would for warrior two. Reach your left arm up. So you want, ideally, that back heel to line up at least with your right thumb or the palm of your right hand. Pushing into the knife edge of your back foot, pressing into the right palm and rolling your right shoulder blade down the back. I want you to now just try to bring those right toes up to your inner left thigh. Just press it there. And then if you can get the toes there, you might be in the game to try and get your heel to press into your inner left thigh. Can I use my hand? You can use your hand. And then if your foot is there, press your leg into your foot so much that you can lift your right knee up off the ground. Pull the lower belly in. It's a tree variation of side plank, but in a much more miserable way than we would like to do it. Take an inhale. Keep the tree in the leg. Exhale, left hand down, turn to your left toes. Lift the right knee up to the ceiling. Now lean your shoulders forward. Exhale, chaturanga. You could keep your leg for your back bend or slide it back, cobra or up dog. Just be mindful of the congestion within the lower back. And then exhale, step the foot back as you lift the hips, downward dog. From downward dog, let's take a nice deep inhale through the nose. Hold that breath at the very top. Open up the mouth. One more. Deep inhale through the nose to hold. This time, like a lion, stick out your tongue. Then with an inhale, we'll bend the knees, look forward. Use the very bottom of your exhale to bring you to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back, and exhale, fold in. So big toes touch, heels separate a little bit. Inhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. Work from the ground up as always. We always want to work with the foundation, because with a weak foundation, the whole structure falls apart. As you feel ready, you'll pull your hands to heart center. Keep the chest up, keep the knees bent. Shift the weight into your right foot, bring your left ankle to the top of your right knee. Flex the heel, push your left knee down and out, but hug your right hip back. Ekapada Utkatasana. You could stay here. If you want to go further and get deeper into that stretch, fold. Elbows rest on top of that left leg for now. So you're in like a half fold. You might even stay here for now. If you're on the more tight side, you might grab your props, blocks to put under your hands. If you can get your hands to the mat, keep the figure four, but lift the right hamstring to the ceiling, straightening the standing leg. Left knee pushes back away from your chest. Belly pulls tight. Relax the head and neck. Now crawling your hands forward about 12 inches in front of your right foot under the shoulders. Cup the earth with the fingertips, think flat back. So you're to slowly just unhook that left foot and kick it straight out to the left, straightening the leg if you can. If not, bend the knee, think big dog, little fire hydrant. Hug that right hip back. Inner left thigh should be flat or parallel to the mat-ish. So you're going to keep that. Slowly just roundhouse kick your leg straight back as you try to roll that left hip open on top of the right by hugging the right hip in. And once that left hip can't lift anymore, then you'll lift your left arm up to stack your shoulders up. So the tightness actually comes from the bottom leg that is prohibiting your external rotation in this pose. And because we've done a lot of work in that right leg, it might be a little easier than this first side. But spin your inner left thigh down towards your right leg to anchor that back leg in the hips, and then lift the inner thigh up to the inner ankle for height. Lengthen your right ribs away from you. Pull the front body in. Now bend your standing leg very deeply. Try not to anticipate it, but very, very slowly float to warrior two. Back foot will touch down, arms will pull up. You adjust the stance, shorten or widen it, front heel to back heel or back arch. Back toes turn slightly forward, front knee stacks the center of your ankle. Even if it's not at 90 degrees, it's getting close. Tailbone tucks down. Try and get rid of that duck tail or the Beyonce in your booty. Has a time and place. Warrior two is not one of them. Knit the front ribs in. Expand the arms apart. Focusing over your front hand, we'll inhale the right arm forward, pulling the right hip away from the top of your thigh, even here. So keep that length, that space. Keep pushing into the right foot as much as you are as you release the right hand on the outer edge of your foot, cupping the earth or putting it flat on a prop. Top arm will go up and overhead. Grounding down to the knife edge of your back foot. That top palm faces the mat. Hugging that right hip back by pushing your right knee into the bicep. And remember, if you're slumping or resting on that right leg, you're probably closing off and pinching your right hip joint. So push into the foot, try to lift your right hip away from the top of that thigh. In this crease here, you actually want to create a little bit of space as if you're tucking your tailbone down as well. Get the front ribs in, lengthen the right side ribs as they twist out and up to the ceiling. Breathe. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, left hand down. Step your right foot back, high plank. From high plank, we'll drop the left knee to the mat. Stack it under the hip. Turn your right heel down. Think warrior two. So if you keep the left toes pointing straight towards your right foot, it should help with the transition a little bit. Those back toes do turn forward a little bit like warrior two. Ground down to the knife edge of your back foot. Press into the left palm and roll your left shoulder blade down the back. So the first step is to just try to bend that left knee and pull the toes to the inner thigh. And then if you can, push your toes into the inner thigh and then press your heel into the inner thigh. With that connection, if you can push enough to lift the left knee up off the ground, we prepared for this in the very beginning when we did that terrible thing in vertical splits. Kind of like an upside down tree pose. Breathe. Keep the tree in the legs. Exhale, right hand down. Turn to your back toes. Lift the left knee up to the ceiling. Lean forward. Exhale, tree chaturanga. You might keep the leg as it is for your back bend or slide it straight back. Take your choice. But then exhale, downward dog. Lift the hips, step the left foot back. From downward dog, let's take a nice deep inhale through the nose, holding that breath at the very top. And then drop to your knees. Cross one ankle over the other, sit back behind your feet. Bring your legs straight out in front of you. So find your sit bones. Grab the cushion, aka butt cheek, pull it straight back to the same thing to both sides. Keeping your left leg as it is, I want you to bring the sole of your right foot to the inner left thigh. So you're creating that tree shape within your legs, but try and keep both hips square to the front of the mat. So if the right knee sticks way up off the ground, or even a little bit off the ground, you might prop it up using a pillow, a bolster, maybe a little book. Now you're going to cup the earth on either side of your left leg with your fingertips, and then round out your spine. Think cat pose. Let your forehead drop towards your pubic bone. Try and round out the lower back especially. Once you can't get any more round, you might crawl your hands forward, let your elbows hang, work your way towards that left leg. So if you're on the more bendy side and your forehead lands on your leg, I want you to do just a little less. Rest your forehead on something. So if you're on the more bendy side, generally that means the spine is going to still be pretty long here, where I actually want you to try to create a hula hoop within the spine. So you're compressing the front ridge of the spine, or this part of our spine that faces the organs. And as you're creating an extension or space and tension through the back chain of the spine. And by nature, the muscles are going to relax. They'll stretch, they'll release. But remember, our focus is no longer the superficial or the yang, the muscles of the body. It is the yin, the deeper, more hidden underlying parts of the body. That connective tissue that connects every single vertebrae to the next. It binds our muscles to the bones. It keeps them separate. And then we just sit for time, breathing in and out your nose. Letting gravity pull that right knee down as it gets heavier against whether it's your prop or the floor. If you're still flexing into that front foot, you can soften it. Remember, as little muscle engagement as possible. So our attention, our awareness can be sent to the tendons of the body. And in Taoism, when we say tendons, they're talking about the connective tissues, fascia, ligaments, and tendons. It's kind of an umbrella word for all of that. Notice your heart rate. Can you slow it down by deepening your breath? Allowing everything to soften. Allowing yourself the opportunity to not work so hard on so many levels. So without rushing anything, I like to do this on an exhale so I can use that exhale to pull the belly in, and that supports the spine as you gently roll up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Your hands can press into the mat and walk back gently, but as slow as you possibly can. Let the head and neck be very last to come up. You may even feel warm. Sometimes it's more of a cool surge, flush down your neck across the tops of your shoulders and sometimes down the length of your spine. That's normal. Now take your right hand to the outer right knee, lift it up towards the center, and then gently slide that foot back out. As you feel ready, keeping the hips square to the front of the mat, you'll bring the sole of your left foot to the inner right thigh. Remember, the knee doesn't land on the mat fully. Use a prop to support it. Get past that false ego of thinking you don't need a prop. Props are very, very helpful. And then again, you're trying to create a hula hoop with your spine. So imagine you're actually getting your forehead to touch your pubic bone here without rolling your tailbone underneath you. And then once you can't round anymore, you crawl your hands forward without losing the rounding within your spine. Resting your forehead on a bolster, on blocks, on a pillow, right? And as you sit here, closing your eyes, I want you to try to feel out and visualize the spine from the inside out. So the sacrum and the coccyx, along with the thoracic spine, they tend to round out very easily because by nature they are already a convex. So the hardest places to round generally is the cervical spine and the lumbar spine. But the cervical spine tends to have a little bit more of an ability because it's a smaller surface area. So as long as the chin is coming into the chest, that's going to create a nice rounding in the cervical spine. So the hardest part to round is actually your lumbar spine, the place where it connects into the sacrum, and then where the lumbar spine connects to the thoracic spine. So if you can pull your lower belly in, the spot just below your belly button, pull that all the way into the spine, that should help push the lower back out. And then where the sternum bone is, right, those ribs, imagine that triangle at the base of your rib cage, pull it closer together to push the upper part of your lumbar spine out. So you get a nice even round from one end of the spine to the other. And then beyond that, gravity, time and patience do all the work. Settling in with your breath, riding it out. It being whatever may come up physically, mentally, emotionally. The only thing you don't want to push past or ride through is physical pain. But also know that pain and sensation, or that discomfort of sensation, there's a very fine line that defines the two. And it's your job to really get to know your body in a way that you can differentiate the two. But pushing through pain is always only going to do more harm. Where getting through sensation is going to help the body building the strength, flexibility, builds patience and tolerance within the mind. So finding sensation, facing it, but at all costs staying away from physical pain. Last few breaths. And then with your next exhale, pulling the belly in and gently rolling the spine up. Can you articulate literally vertebrae by vertebrae? Allowing the shoulders to slowly pull over your hips, the neck and head over your shoulders. And once you're upright, the left hand will go to the outer left knee. You lift it up to the center, and then gently slide the leg out. And then go ahead and scoot the bottom forward, bend the knees, grab the backs of your thighs, and gently roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. Once you're flat on the back, you'll bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees flop open. So if your knees do stick up off the mat, use blocks or pillows underneath them. And then I actually want you to take your right arm out to the side of the room and flip your palm to the mat. Now you're going to slowly slide that right hand underneath your lower back. Keep the hips down, try to keep that right shoulder heavy. So if that's enough, just stay there. The further you can get your right hand to slide up between your shoulder blades, but again, don't let your right shoulder or hip lift. They should stay flat on the floor. The more you're going to get into the stressing of that right rotator cuff. Front body gets heavy laying on top of the right hand. Maybe even take your left hand to your rib cage to remind it to melt down. And using that hand also as a focal point to send your breath. Especially if you're super tight in the shoulders, you have a desk job, you spend a lot of time in the car, or simply sitting on your cell phones doing this in your shoulder for any length of time generally is difficult, let alone sitting here for about 90 seconds. So deepen the breath. Don't just breathe to your left thumb, which is at maybe your sternum bone. Breathe all the way down past your left pinky finger. Let every exhale soften the body even more. Notice if there's parts of the body resisting what's happening. Maybe muscles in your back. Maybe the glutes are even tightening. The jaw might be clenching. So again, don't rush out of this. I want you to slowly slide the hand to your lower back if it's not already there, and gently slide it out from underneath you. And just take it straight back out like we started. And then flip your palm up. Bend your elbows so the fingertips point straight up to the ceiling. And then you're going to just let your pinky finger fall to the mat. And then lift it up. Let your thumb fall back towards the mat. So you're kind of windshield washing that arm just up and down, getting into that rotator cuff. And then you'll place your right palm onto your belly or rib cage. Reach the left arm out, palm facing the mat. And then you'll slide that hand underneath your lower back. Keep the palm in the mat the whole time. If having it in your lower back is enough, stay put. If you want to kind of crawl it up towards being in between your shoulders, great. But make sure that the left hip and your left shoulder stay down and your front ribs drop down. So remember, use that right hand in the front of your body to remind you to soften the ribs down, letting the muscles within your back release. Because if those front ribs are popping up, generally the muscles in your back are going to be tensing. And that's because they want to help the intensity of what you're feeling in that left shoulder. So if you can let the front body soften and release, just getting heavy. And maybe that just means you don't have your hand up between the shoulders. Maybe it's somewhere in between the lower back and the shoulder blades. Breathing, remember, pass your right pinky finger, even past your belly button. Try to breathe the full length of your spine. As you're ready, just sliding the hand to the lower back first, releasing some of the intensity. And then out from underneath you, straight back out to the side of the room, flipping the palm up, and bending the elbow, fingers point straight up to the ceiling. Let your pinky fall forward towards the mat. Lift the arm back up, and then let the thumb fall up and over. Windshield wash your arm that way, side to side, a couple times. And then as you feel satiated, you will allow your arms to just fall out and away from the sides of your body, palms face up. You can keep the legs as they are if you want to slide your legs out, the feet coming to either corner of your mat. Releasing the hip opener, be my guest, but be gentle, take your time. Savasana, corpse pose. Ideally, you remove any props that you're not using, so you're not sitting there thinking about what your feet or fingertips are touching. Remember, this is that place where we want every bone, muscle, ligament, and tendon, even the surface of our skin, to release. The mind can let go of all thoughts of what the body is doing and how it's feeling. And you, the soul, have the opportunity to step aside, having as close to an out-of-body experience as you can get. Finding the ultimate sense of release from the inside out. Let yourself rise. There is clear understanding of the difference between the body and the soul. Then just as one does not neglect to supply the physical body with food, and similarly we will not live in the illusion that our inner cravings or emptiness can be satisfied by endless material consumption. Quote from my spiritual teacher. But if you really look at all the problems that plague the globe, creation as a whole, you will find that it really stems from, or the root cause of it, is a false identification of being this material body. And when we falsely identify as being the material body, we then make the false assumption that material things are going to make us happy. But we have to understand that we, the soul, the eternal being that is temporarily situated within this body, we are Satchit Ananda, which means eternal, situated in a place of knowledge, spiritual knowledge or truth, and we are full of bliss or happiness. And so we see that translated so much by a constant search for whether that's more knowledge, or we think that the more we have, the happier we will become. And we have been taught that pretty much from the moment we opened our eyes, whether it's from media, advertisements, our society or culture, even peers and family members. But one thing that you will find is that no matter how many material things you can acquire, how wealthy you can become, that it's never going to be enough. And that is because that hunger for knowledge and happiness actually comes from the soul. So we have to understand that just as we eat 3 to 5 times a day to nourish the body and the mind, we have to do the same for ourselves. And that comes through practicing some sort of spiritual routine, Whether that is things like self-introspection or asking the deeper questions of who am I? Why does this all exist? What is my purpose? Meditating, praying, studying the sastras or holy scriptures of the world. Searching out spiritual truths rather than just material knowledge. Finding spiritual happiness that pierces us from the inside out. But for now, you can begin to wiggle the toes, the fingers, roll out your ankles, your wrists. And stretch your arms up and overhead, point through the toes, call some energy back into the physical body as you stretch it long. And as you're ready, gently roll to your right or left hand side. Taking your time. And with your own time, with your eyes still closed, you'll walk up to a comfortable seat. Whatever that is for your body at this time is up to you. You can rest your hands on your knees in your lap or bring them to heart center. But wherever you go, sit up tall, close your eyes, and come back to your breath. So just remembering that living in this illusion that material things are going to satisfy an eternal hunger. It's naive and completely wrong. And the more we do it, we'll actually find that the more misery it causes. So it's very important that we do take the time to dig deep, finding the nourishment for the soul. So just something to think about, something to take with you and work with beyond the rubber mat. On that note, namaste.